To the public, Alexander and Vivian Grayson were royalty without a crown. They lived in a glass and stone palace on a 600-acre estate overlooking the hills, where the wealthy disappeared behind gates and secrets. The mansion was a landmark: white columns, shimmering fountains, a staff of 14, and a driveway lined with imported olive trees. Alexander was often seen at charity galas, smiling for cameras, donating millions, winning awards engraved with phrases like Humanitarian of the Year. Vivian, a former supermodel, was elegance reincarnated. Known for her flawless fashion sense, icy poise, and the diamonds that seemed permanently glued to her wrists. Everyone wanted to be them. Everyone envied them. No one knew them, because behind the marble floors, behind the gold leaf ceilings and glass staircases, behind the carefully engineered perfection, a monster lived inside each of them. And monsters, when married, can hide anything. Even a slave. Her passport was fake. Her age 19. Her real name unknown to the couple. To them, she was simply Aya, a quiet, frightened girl smuggled from a poor village across the ocean. She had been promised work as a housemaid, a chance to earn money for her family. Instead, she was sold, auctioned, bought. The Graysons didn't see a teenage girl. They saw a blank canvas. Obedient, desperate, easily manipulated. Aya arrived at the mansion wrapped in a thin coat, barefoot, trembling. Her first step inside the marble entrance made her stop in shock. She had never seen a home so large it echoed. Vivian smiled at her with a warmth that never reached her eyes. "Welcome, Aya. You belong to us now." Aya lowered her gaze. She had learned long ago that eye contact brought danger. Vivian led her down a hallway into the east wing, a part of the house where staff rarely entered. A locked door marked the end of the corridor. Vivian opened it. Inside was a small room with no windows, a mattress on the floor, a single dim bulb, and chains that hung loosely from a wall hook. Her voice was soft, almost motherly. "This will be your room." Aya didn't speak. She knew that no one asked a slave girl for her opinion. The Graysons' desires were not about romance or passion. They were about power, control, dominance. Vivian dictated Aya's daily schedule. She told her what to eat, how to walk, how to breathe. Vivian was obsessed with shaping Aya into an extension of her desires. She dressed the girl, monitored her weight, and corrected her posture by force. Alexander was different. He didn't give orders. He lingered. He watched. He approached Aya with soft words and gentle hands, pretending to be the good captor. But the darkness in him was more dangerous because it was masked with kindness. Vivian noticed the shift immediately. She always noticed everything. Alexander spent more time near Aya. He spoke to her. He touched her hair. He listened when she whispered. Vivian's anger simmered quietly. She had wanted Aya for their fantasies, not for Alexander to fall in love with, because Vivian could share wealth, fame, even her body, but not control. Never control. Aya rarely saw anything beyond her locked room and the hallways she cleaned. Her meals were small, her sleep light, her fear constant. But she was not weak. She had survived worse. And she had begun to memorize the pattern of footsteps in the mansion, the times doors opened, and which staff feared the Graysons enough to avoid looking at her. One evening, fate slipped into her hands. A maid accidentally left a hairpin on a dining table after cleaning up. Aya pocketed it. For 3 nights straight, she worked on the lock of her room. Metal on metal, quiet patience, shaking hands. On the 4th night, click, the lock opened. Aya felt her heart race as she stepped into the hallway, barefoot, breath trembling. She moved silently toward the servants' elevator. Freedom was in reach. Then a voice cut through the darkness like a blade. "Aya!" Vivian stepped out from behind a column, her white silk gown flowing like ghostly smoke. She held a glass of red wine, swirling it calmly, as if she had been expecting this moment. Aya froze. Vivian walked toward her slowly and lifted her chin with cold fingers. "You can't leave," she whispered. "You belong here. You belong to us." Aya cried silently, not because she failed, but because she realized something. Vivian enjoyed breaking people. After that night, the door was reinforced with steel bars. Aya stopped sleeping at all. Vivian tightened her grip on the girl. But Alexander loosened his. He visited Aya's room more often. He whispered apologies. He brought her extra food. He told her he wanted to protect her, words Aya didn't believe. But Alexander believed in his own delusion. He convinced himself he was her savior, even though he was the reason she needed saving. His obsession grew into something dangerous, irrational, and volatile. Vivian noticed the change. One night during a dinner party, she caught Alexander staring at Aya with a softness normally reserved for lovers. Vivian's hand tightened around her wine glass until it cracked. The couple who had once shared everything, wealth, lies, and darkness, now shared only one thing, a growing hatred for each other. Aya could feel it. She knew, two predators fighting over prey always ends in blood. The night it happened, thunder rattled the mansion. Rain slammed the glass walls like fists begging for entry. The staff had been sent home early. The estate was silent except for the moaning wind that seeped through the cracks. Aya sat curled in her corner, listening to the storm. She always prayed during storms. But tonight the danger wasn't outside. It was walking toward her. Aya heard footsteps, Alexander's. She recognized their rhythm, slow and heavy, the steps of a man carrying guilt. He opened the door, locking it behind him. His voice was shaky. I can't do this anymore. She flinched, assuming the worst. But Alexander knelt in front of her instead, tears streaming down his face. I'm going to get you out, he whispered. Vivian has gone too far. I'll protect you. We'll leave tonight. A word Aya knew never meant freedom. Before she could respond, another sound cut through the air. Stilettos clicking on marble. Vivian. The door swung open with violent force. She had heard everything. The storm raged as Vivian stepped into Aya's room. Her silk dress clung to her body, soaked from the rain. Her eyeliner had smeared, not from tears, but from fury. Alexander stood up quickly. Vivian, wait. What are you doing? She asked in a voice too calm. Alexander tried to reason. Vivian didn't want reason. She wanted control back. 3 months, Alexander, she hissed. That girl has been here 3 months, and you have lost your mind. It's not like that. Oh, it is exactly like that. Then Vivian grabbed the fireplace poker she had brought with her. Long, heavy, and sharp at the end. She swung. Alexander wasn't ready. The metal hit his temple with a cracking sound Aya would never forget. He dropped to the floor, dazed. Vivian screamed, swinging again, and again. Blood splattered across the white walls. Alexander collapsed, motionless, a pool of red spreading beneath him. Vivian stood over his body, chest heaving, eyes wild. She turned slowly toward Aya. This is your fault. Aya backed into the corner. Vivian stepped closer. I should have gotten rid of you the day you arrived. Lightning flashed outside. Vivian raised the poker. And that was the moment Aya decided. If she didn't fight tonight, she would die tonight. As Vivian charged at her, Aya grabbed the only thing within reach. A broken piece of metal from the door lock she had damaged weeks ago. Vivian swung the poker toward her head. Aya ducked. The metal scraped Aya's cheek, drawing blood, but Vivian lost balance for just 1 second, and Aya lunged forward. She plunged the sharp metal into Vivian's shoulder. Vivian screamed. Aya pushed her away and sprinted into the hallway. Vivian stumbled after her, blood pouring from the wound. Aya, she shrieked. You ungrateful little. I didn't look back. She ran. Down the staircase, through the foyer, out into the storm. Rain drenched her instantly, mixing with tears. Barefoot, freezing, terrified. She ran across the gravel driveway, her feet bleeding with each step. Behind her, Vivian's screams echoed through the night until the storm swallowed them. Aya didn't stop. Not for a second. She ran until the mansion was nothing but a shadow in the distance. Aya reached the main road, a dark, empty stretch of asphalt. She looked behind her every few seconds, terrified Vivian might come after her. When she saw the lights of a gas station, she stumbled toward it. A night shift attendant gasped when he saw the blood-soaked girl. "My God, are you hurt? Do you need help?" Aya couldn't speak. She only nodded. He handed her the phone. She dialed 911 with trembling fingers. The operator answered. 911, what's your emergency? Aya whispered. I want to report murder. The operator froze. Ma'am, are you safe? No, Aya said. Not yet. She gave the address, the Grayson estate. The name alone was enough to send shockwaves through the system. Within minutes, police cars and ambulances raced through the storm toward a mansion nobody had ever suspected. Aya was wrapped in a blanket, shaking violently, as paramedics tried to treat her injuries. She kept repeating, I didn't kill him. She killed him. Vivian killed him. The officers listened. The truth was much darker than they imagined. Police entered the Grayson estate around 2:13 a.m. What they saw inside made even veteran officers stop in disbelief. Alexander Grayson lay dead on the floor of Aya's room. Skull crushed, blood splattered across the concrete wall. His phone was shattered. His hand was still reaching toward the girl's mattress, as if he had died mid-crawl. Vivian Grayson was found collapsed in the hallway, bleeding heavily from the metal wound Aya inflicted. She was barely conscious. When officers tried to question her, she screamed, She stole him from me. She stole everything. But what investigators discovered next was far worse. In the East Wing, they found a locked room of restraints bolted to the wall, hidden surveillance cameras, falsified documents, Aya's confiscated belongings, a secret laptop with encrypted files, payments to traffickers. The perfect couple had run a private world of control and sadism. Vivian was arrested at dawn, still covered in her husband's blood. Aya watched from the ambulance as officers cuffed the woman who had nearly killed her. Vivian's last words before being dragged into the police cruiser were, She was never supposed to survive. Aya wrapped the blanket tighter around herself. Her nightmare wasn't over, but for the first time, she was no longer a prisoner. At sunrise, the news broke. Billionaire philanthropist found dead. Model-turned-socialite arrested in husband's murder. Human trafficking investigation begins at Grayson Estate. Helicopters hovered over the mansion. Reporters crowded outside police headquarters. The Graysons' perfect reputation crumbled in real time, broadcast to millions who once worshipped them. Vivian Grayson, wrapped in a blanket and handcuffed, was escorted into a police car. Cameras flashed like lightning. Her face appeared cold, detached, almost insulted, as if the world had dared to disturb her. In the ambulance, Aya watched the chaos quietly. A female officer sat beside her, offering water. You're safe now, she said. Aya shook her head softly. No, she whispered. She's not done. The officer hesitated but didn't argue. I knew. Vivian Grayson wasn't the kind of monster that surrendered. She was the kind that waited. Vivian was interrogated for nearly 9 hours. Detectives laid photo after photo in front of her. Alexander's body, Aya's injuries, the locked rooms, the chains, the incriminating documents from the underground trafficking ring. But Vivian just smiled, leaning back in the metal chair. She was obsessed with my husband, Vivian said calmly. She seduced him, manipulated him, and when he tried to leave, she killed him. Detective Ramos tried not to roll his eyes. Your fingerprints are all over the murder weapon. Vivian shrugged. So? This is my home, my fireplace, my poker. What about Aya's injuries? She attacked me. The girl is feral. The detective leaned forward. Mrs. Grayson, there are cameras. Hidden cameras. They show everything. Vivian's smile cracked. For the first time, fear flickered in her eyes. But only for a moment. She whispered softly, Do you know who I am? Detective Ramos answered without hesitation. A murderer. Aya was placed into protective custody. She had to testify. The courtroom was full. Reporters, lawyers, grieving relatives of Alexander, and dozens of curious spectators who had followed the scandal obsessively. Vivian walked in wearing an orange jumpsuit but carried herself like royalty forced into ugly fabric. Her eyes locked onto Aya. Aya froze. Vivian gave her a slow, chilling smile, the kind that promised revenge. Aya felt her throat close, but the prosecutor squeezed her shoulder gently. "You're safe. Speak truth." Aya stepped into the witness box. Her hands trembled as she took the oath. Every eye in the room watched the young immigrant girl who had taken down a billionaire dynasty. She described the small windowless room, the chains of Vivian's punishments, Alexander's obsession, the night of the murder, her escape through the storm. Her voice cracked only once. When she said, "I thought I would die there," the courtroom went silent. Then Vivian laughed. A loud, sharp laugh that echoed in the chambers. "She's lying," Vivian shouted, rising from her seat. "She's manipulating you. She seduced my husband. She—" "Order!" the judge yelled. Officers pulled Vivian back into her seat. I didn't flinch this time. She realized Vivian had lost something more valuable than money. Power. The trial lasted for weeks. 27 witnesses testified. Hundreds of exhibits were shown. Experts analyzed every wound, every message, every payment. The jury deliberated for only 6 hours. When they returned, the courtroom fell silent. The foreman stood. "We, the jury, find the defendant, Vivian Grayson, guilty on all charges. First-degree murder, human trafficking, false imprisonment, aggravated assault." Vivian closed her eyes, jaw clenched. The judge delivered the final blow. "For your crimes, you are sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole." Vivian's eyes snapped open. She looked directly at Aya as officers pulled her to her feet. Her voice was low, venomous. "You should have died." Aya didn't respond. Vivian screamed as she was dragged out of the courtroom. The sound echoed for a full minute after she disappeared behind the heavy wooden doors. And then, silence. Aya exhaled for the first time in months. But what came next was the hardest part. Learning how to live again. 6 months later, Aya lived in a small apartment paid for by a victim rehabilitation program. She attended therapy twice a week. She learned English slowly, reading children's books every night. Her nightmares came and went, but she was healing. One afternoon, she received a knock at the door. It was Detective Ramos. "I thought you'd want to know," he said. "Vivian Grayson gave an interview from prison." Aya's stomach tightened. "She said one thing about you," the detective continued. Aya leaned forward. Ramos read from a notepad. "She said, Aya thinks she won. But the story isn't over." Aya took a deep breath. She wasn't afraid. Not anymore. She looked out her window at the sunlight touching the city. "I survived her," Aya said softly. "And that's enough." The detective nodded and left. Aya closed the door behind her and returned to her table, where she had been writing. The page read, Chapter 1, My Story. She wasn't writing for the world. She was writing for herself, reclaiming every piece that had been stolen. As she picked up the pen, she whispered the words that defined her new life. "I am free." And for the first time, she truly was.